hey, ya, hey, ya, que nanas captain que se manito, oche amane pe matsoen, hey, ya, ho. Que nanas comte nanochi oh
Hey everyone, Medakyapi, Hampawashdewe Machiapi, Kihu Watani Squawani Tsigatsun. This is Tea with Tonia. Thank you guys for tuning in. Super excited to be here. It's Wednesday, 8 o'clock Central Standard Time. And I wanted to start off by talking about motherhood. As you may know, or you may not know, I have two daughters. They're 12 and 13, soon to be 13 and 14. I wanted to start off right away with, I was a young mom. I got pregnant at 17 and I had my first daughter at 18, and then I got pregnant again and I had my second daughter at 19. And so, not only did I have to grow up fast because I grew up in alcoholism, I grew up on the Staninak Sioux Reservation and the 3 affiliated tribes, with my parents co-parenting with me. I was young. I was, honestly, I wasn't like, oh, I want to be a teen mom. It just kind of happened, and, I embraced it and I did the best I could, just like any other teens out there that had babies at a young age. You're a baby, and I had to really buckle down, and that's when I was like, well, what am I going to do? I knew I was going to go to college, which it almost gave me a boost or more motivation, because I not only had one baby, I had 2 babies in diapers. And so not only was I a broke college kid, I also had these 2 babies to take care of, and I had to figure it out fast. Maybe if you're in college, you're struggling already. You're like, dang, it's hard to be a college kid. And I can't imagine having 2 babies in diapers. And, it wasn't ideal, but it also pushed me, and it was really super hard. Parenting, I wanted to talk about motherhood, because parenting, it isn't easy. It's, that it doesn't come with this is how you do it. Something that might work for one parent may not work for the other, or something that worked for one parent. Yeah, maybe I'm trying to share some knowledge with one of my friends about what worked for me. That might have worked for me, but not for my friends. And so every kid is different. Both my daughters are totally opposite. And so I was having to grow up and take care of myself and take care of 2 kids. And also that relationship, I was with their dad is actually 14 years older than me. Yeah, that's another story. Me and their dad, we met at a powwow, and we ended up being together for 5 years. And, it wasn't the ideal relationship. It was very toxic and unhealthy. And at the same time, I had these 2 little girls, and I was, trying my best. Oh my gosh, I would try timeouts. I would spank, oh my gosh, everything you can think of, I would try to do. And, a lot of times I didn't know. I didn't grow up. Also, for those of you who don't know, I didn't grow up with any younger siblings, or I didn't grow up with babysitting a lot. I know some people were naturals with kids. I wasn't. Before I had my girls, obviously had them at a young age, but I wasn't a natural, how some people, they have that baby talk. They're like, oh, this is so cute. Oh, look at that. I just wasn't like that. I remember my mom asking me, what if me and your dad had another kid? I was like, Z, no, thank you. I was like, I wouldn't be able to handle having a younger sibling. So I was that kind of teenager, or that kind of kid. the only child being taken care of by my parents. They co-parented me back and forth. And so, I required a lot of attention. And so somebody who grew up like that and then having two kids, it was definitely a challenge. Not only was I in school, in college, I was also trying to pursue a degree in criminal justice because I was like, I need a job ASAP. I need to take care of my kids. Like, I was also dancing in powwows, writing papers, the anxiety that school brings, on top of like trying to parent, trying to grow. And I was just in my early 20s, in college, and trying to figure it out, like what I really wanted to do. You don't know what you want to do. Like in the beginning, like I didn't know what I wanted to do. I mean, I know some people, maybe they have all doctors in their family and that's kind of cut out for them. And they're like, yeah, I'm going to be a doctor. I get that. But for me, when I was little, I didn't like, the only thing I ever dreamed about being was a champion jingle dress dancer. So it didn't have anything to do with getting my degree, but I grew up with my parents always telling me that I was going to get my bachelor's degree and that education was really important so that I could always fall back on it. And so so back to talking about motherhood, in the midst of writing my papers, staying up late, I was also mothering my two girls there. And in a toxic relationship, that's not always easy, with hollering and arguments. And, like for me, I stayed in that relationship for many years because my parents didn't work it out. So I thought, you know what, I need to work this out for my girls. And I was young, like I was still a girl, like I was a girl raising babies, and still, I wasn't even on my healing journey yet. I was just trying to survive and live and live my best life, live my best life with two little girls. And oh my gosh, I wasn't even taking care of myself after I had them for a while. I remember I was just being a mom, get up, like I wouldn't take the time to get ready. Now at 32, I see moms and they have kids my age, and I'm like, geez, you look nice. Sometimes I would just like get up, oh, time for class, wipe my mouth off, wipe the gawk out of my eyes, and like get my kids ready and take them to daycare and go to class, and then after daycare get them. And you're not just in school, I had responsibilities, and that was tough. I'm gonna be honest, like that was really hard. I remember with my first daughter, I remember her being colicky. And if you don't know what that is, it's like their stomach gets filled up with air, or they get too much intake with air. That's, to my understanding, I mean, could be a different definition, but that was happening with my little girl, my first daughter, Sapphire. And so she was colicky for like the first 3 months of her life, and there wasn't anything I can do about it. I tried every remedy you can think of, like bicycle their legs, wrap them tight with a warm blanket, bounce them. Oh, there's like Carol syrup in their bottle, or like these little droplets will help with their colicky. Oh gosh, you guys, like I remember like sitting up all night rocking my baby, and she would just be crying in pain. Even I would be crying. I would just be rocking her, just just crying with her and thinking like, what did I get myself into? Speaking of my girl there, she had to grow out of that at 3 months. I was like, oh my goodness. Like, and she had the loudest scream I ever heard. I mean, on top of it, I didn't ever babysit. So I was like, I don't know, but this little baby my girl has a loud scream. Oh my gosh. Like that's why I would start crying, because I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I don't know, their dad would, or her dad would take her, and we'd take turns like walking her around the hallways, or like going for a drive. Oh my gosh. And so think about that, and then think about, I have to get up for school tomorrow and I have a test. Oh my gosh. Or, there was so much responsibilities on top of it. Like, on the weekend we'd be at powwows with my 2 little babies too. And so when my second girl came, Lolly, I was prepared because my first girl was hard. It was really hard with her. And so like she would cry a lot. And so with my second girl, it was a lot more easier. Like my second girl, I actually kept her in a cradle board. And this funny story, my grandma Riva Gates, I wanted a cradle board. Obviously didn't hire anyone to make me one, or I didn't bead one myself. And so I was asking around my community in Standing Rock if anybody has a cradle board, and my grandma Riva happened to have one that she won at bingo. So Lolly was in a bingo cradle board. It worked good though, like, oh, somebody said colic is formed from acid reflux, and acid reflux is because the spine is pinching off the nerves to the digestive system. Oh, wow. A chiropractor will adjust their spine so it's no longer pinching the nerves. Dang, that's a way better definition than I had. Me just getting too much air. I also was a young mom, so that's my excuse. I didn't really know how to handle that. Wow, that would have helped me so much when I was 18 years old, raising a baby that's colicky. Wow, yeah. So grandma came in clutch with that bingo magic and gave me that. She didn't give it to me either. She said they can borrow it. So Lolly was on a borrowed cradle board. But honestly, if you guys, if you have a baby, or in the future, or maybe you're pregnant now, like, and you're with your first child, like, I highly recommend getting a cradle board or a moss bag or something of that nature, because it worked really good. Like my girl Lolly, she would just, when she get wrapped up in that, the comfort of that, it provided her with security. I swear it did. Like I'd take that everywhere, and I'd take it to powwows, and she would sleep right through it. She'd only cry if she needed to get changed, or she was also breastfed. I didn't breastfeed Sapphire, had troubles with that. And so that could have been the difference too, because Sapphire was on formula, and oh my gosh, that was not fun, you guys, making bottles all the time. I don't know. It feels like I was like introduced in a traumatic way to motherhood being so young, right? Like most 18-year-olds they're not even thinking about that. But there I was, like thrown into motherhood and just this is another funny story. I mean, this is another story of how much pride I had, and I didn't want to ask anyone for help, as if I was the only mother in the world. Like I literally wouldn't ask for help if I didn't know how to do something. I would just kind of figure it out on my own. We had a 1-bedroom apartment, and we just had Sapphire at this time. She was just a little baby. And some people kind of creeped me out. They said, like, be careful when you're cutting their nails. You can cut their skin. You can cut their finger off. And I was like, oh my God. Like, they're like, you'd probably be better off just chewing their nails when they get long. And I was like, me, I don't even chew my own nails. Just chewing my little baby's nails. And so I was like creeped out, like traumatized from that story. And I didn't give I didn't cut her nails. I don't even know how long I didn't cut her nails. And I remember those little mitts, they're little mitts for babies anyways. They keep their hands warm. I just kept those little mitts on her. Even, I changed them obviously if they were dirty, but I didn't want her to scratch her face, and I was just like overprotective and overboard, and I didn't want to her to scratch herself up. And so I remember this one time I had Sapphire laying on I had this sponge, like this baby sponge. I didn't even know how to give her a bath. It's so sad. I was like, can I give her a bath? She doesn't know how to sit up. Like, what do I do? Like, this is me in my head talking to myself. Like, I didn't ask their dad. He already had kids prior too. Didn't ask him for help. Didn't ask any of my aunties or my mom. Didn't ask nobody. was just trying to like adult and do it by herself. And so, oh my God. I laid that yellow sponge down. It was about the size of her body, and put her on it. It had a little imprint of a body. I put her on it, and I'd run to the bathroom. I'd run to the bathroom with this wash rag, and I'd get it wet, and I'd lather it up with soap, and I'd go to her, and I'd like wash her little body up, and then I'd go back, and I'd put some warm water on it, and then I'd wring it out over her. I'd wring it out over her, and next, she was getting cold, and I was like, oh my gosh, I don't know how to do this, and she still had her gloves on, and they were getting all drenched. Next. Anyways, I learned some after that. I ended up getting one of those baby tubs. You put it in the tub and giving her a bath, but I had to make all the mistakes first before I even bringing her in the shower with me and then washing her up and putting her in her little boppy chair. Like, I eventually learned, like, poor Sapphire was just my baby that I had to learn from. And Lolly, by the time I had 11 months later, had Indian twins. After I had Lolly, then I was an expert by then. Like, even changing Sapphire, I would be so gentle, like, and nervous, right? Like, because I never put clothes on a little baby because I never babysat before. So I was extra gentle, and I was like slowly doing it. I was changing her checking her pampers, like panicking. When she'd cry, I'd pick her up, like. And I remember my grandma would say, hey, don't be, you're going to spoil her. You don't have to, you can let her cry for a little while. And I was like, I'm going to let her cry. Just mad. But that ended, she was like, you're going to make it hard on yourself. And it really did. It made it hard on me, because then she always wanted to be held. Like, she never wasn't held. And so that was really tough. Like, and I think that's where the cradle board came in handy for my girl Lolly. Like, it was useful, because Sapphire, even when we were napping, I would have to fake it, like close my eyes and breathe heavily, and until she would go to sleep. I would even kind of open my eyes a little bit to see if she was looking at me, and she would be staring at me and making sure that I was going to sleep. So I wasn't the mom who, sure, I had a bassinet, or I had a playpens, or I had cribs for my girls, but my girls I hope none of their friends are listening, but my girls just started sleeping in their own rooms maybe 3 years ago. And so ever since they were babies, they were always in my bed, sleeping with me. And so some people will have their kids on schedules. I didn't know how to do that. Like, my kids are 12 and 13, and they're just now like on a schedule. Plus all the traveling that I did to Powwow, it was hard to keep on it. I didn't know how to, honestly, guys, I didn't know how to put a baby on a schedule. I didn't know, what does that mean? I don't know how to do that. And so I just my kids were never really on any kind of schedule, which made it really hard for me. It would have been better if I could have known when their feedings were, at least, or when their nap times were, so then I could fill that time with homework or get what I needed to get done around the house. But I didn't know, so I did it the hard way, which, that it is what it is. But I think back about on how, like, I was a teen mom and how I just didn't know. And so I want to encourage, like, if you're a mom, it doesn't matter if you're a teen mom, maybe if you're a new mom, or a new dad, like, I want to encourage you to ask questions and ask for help when you need it, because doing it by yourself, like, and relying on yourself and thinking like you're the only one who has a baby in the world, like, how do I do this? Like, that's literally how I was. And that was hard. And I was having to figure out, and I wasn't like Googling anything at that time either, which that was like, how many years ago? 13 years ago. So it wasn't that accessible. I think it was like Ask Jeeves or something. It wasn't Google anyway, which it would seem like would come so much more handy to have Google now. Like, I Google everything now, but back then, being a new mom and, moving on to co-parenting. I mentioned that I grew up with my parents co-parenting with me after they were divorced. They started co-parenting me, and so I always believed that after my kid's dad and I separated, I always believed that we could co-parent, and it was really hard, you guys, like really hard. Like we argued all the time. Like I had so much resentment towards him, and it was so hard. I was like, what was I thinking? I wasn't thinking. um so anyways, uh we'd argue a lot at the beginning of our co-parenting. I would be getting mad you're not seeing them enough. Or if he'd buy them stuff and drop it off, I'm like, that's not the way you give love. Like I just was so we were bumping heads a lot, like because the way I was seeing a father it was the way my father was the way he parented me and the way he was there for me. And so there was a lot of, at the beginning years of co-parenting, they're not easy. And so if you're in the beginning, like there was a lot of arguing, there was a lot of talking about what hurt me, what I didn't like, I was literally having to work through it while we were co-parenting. And it wasn't easy. Like there was a lot of cussing at each other, arguing. There was a lot of phone call hangups. There was a lot of, what I'm really grateful for though is like my kid's dad didn't ever like fight me for them, which I'm really thankful for. And he had told me like I won't ever fight over our kids with you, and that was reassuring for me because I was like, well, you're gonna lose. No, just kidding. I didn't say that, but that was just really reassuring for me, and it brought me clarity because I wanted to take care of my girls. That's a whole reason why I didn't go into criminal justice and be a police officer or a judge or probation officer. That's why I pursued my career in general studies, and I did an eminent scholar credential to teach the Lakota language because my whole plan was to be able to be there for my girls and to raise them and for them to have a present parent and somebody there to spend quality time with them. And so I felt like it was, there's a reason why I had 2 little girls. There's a reason for that at my young age. Cause for a long time I was like, geez, I'd be praying and I'd be getting upset and just like in my prayer. And I'd be like, I don't know what I'm doing. Like, especially with co-parenting, because I was having to try to be peaceful or respectful with somebody who I was abused by. And that has been the most toughest thing in my life, like being in an unhealthy relationship and that being the father of my kids and still having to learn how to work through that personally and together. And then also what's the best interest of my kids. That was intense. I've grown up with seeing my parents have their indifferences, and I've seen them lash out on each other, but I didn't see them work through it. Like they still had that resentment towards each other. And so it took 3, 4, 5, I don't know. It took like probably 2 solid years to actually start being nice to each other. Wait, let me think. No, it's probably longer than that. Probably like 6. I mean, we kept communication, which is, it was hard on both ends, but we communicated anyway. My girls have always had their dad in their life, and anytime he's called upon, like he'll be helpful. He'll show up. Anything that they need, he's there. But that took a lot of hard work, you guys. Like, like I feel like I was nervous about talking about this because I was like, I don't want to talk about that, but I think that's really important because I think a lot of people maybe you're not co-parenting. Maybe your kid's mom or your kid's dad isn't in their life, and you think that no, thank you. Like, I could never do that. Well, coming from me, like, I probably wouldn't have ever thought I could do it. Like, seriously, I had so much resentment, and I dreaded talking to him, and I had hard feelings, and shoot, I was hurt. I was hurt having to communicate with somebody that hurt me. And so if I could put my differences aside and work through it, like, you can too. But I realized, like, I had to realize, like, I couldn't control him. I couldn't make him I couldn't make my kid's dad be the father that I wanted him to be. And I had to really do personal growth and prayer. That took a lot of prayer and asking for guidance, because I think a lot of times I felt like I knew it all, especially being in my early 20s. Like, I knew everything. Like, and I'm being sarcastic. Like, I knew everything. Like, my favorite word was, I know, I know already. But that was my thing all the time. And so nobody could tell me nothing. Nobody could say anything to me, because I already knew when I didn't. I didn't know anything. And so, you know, um, around 26, I think I was 26 years old, I remember telling my kid's dad that I forgave him, and we had to talk about it, because, and I was emotional, because I had told him, like, I was really hurt and these things bothered me, emotional, verbal, physical, sexual, all of the different types of abuse we had in our relationship. And it was, I was thankful that he was open to talk to me and hear me, and we're able to, we were communicating all of the years before, but like I said, I wasn't always nice. My words weren't nice. I wasn't respectful, because I was hurt, and so I was projecting onto him. And not until I decided to start taking care of myself, and I meant physically, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, all of it, not just one thing. Because I was working out ever since after I had my girls. Like, I got back into shape, and I was dancing at a lot of powwows. That's a physical part of it. I can honestly tell you those were some of my saddest years. I won gatherings that year. I got my degree. All the things that you would be proud of, like, because you were being successful. I can honestly tell you that I was empty on the inside. I wasn't taking care of my spirit. I wasn't taking care of my mind. And all the mind, the body, and the spirit, they all connect. And not until I started incorporating the mind and the spirit could I see from the outside. Could I take myself out of the situation and see that my kid's dad was doing the best job he could? I was seeing his upbringing. How could he be what I want him to be when he didn't have a father being that in his life? I had to realize that he's doing the best he could. And it took me a long time. I had to realize that, he's there when called upon. He's my girls' dad for some reason. There's a story that I was told from a Cree lady, and she had shared with me that when we're babies and we're on the other side and we're looking down, and the babies are, the spirit of the baby is looking down, and they're choosing their parents. And, you think about that, and my kids, they chose me and their dad. And so a lot of times, I think when we're upset with somebody, we might want to say, like, gee, I should have chose a different person. And we're not even the ones choosing spiritually. Like, physically in the human realm, yeah, but like spiritually, like, it was already in the, it was already set in stone that me and their dad were gonna do this. And it has been the most challenging relationship moving through it in my life. But now, creating boundaries, using my voice, healing myself, I'm able to, instead of fighting, I'm able to tell and say when I don't like the way something said to me, or that's triggering me the way you're talking to me right now. I don't like that, and I don't appreciate it. And great, I'm thankful that, on my kid's dad and his end, like he's able to receive that and to work on it in any kind of way that isn't working for me, that he's able to come at it with a different approach. And it really does take two people working on themselves on both ends. And I mean that physically, spiritually, and mentally, all three. But I wanted to share this with you all. I didn't really know what kind of stories were going to come up, or, but my girls are 12 and 13 now, and it's been 2 years. I finally, I've moved all over. Like my girls have been to maybe 5 schools. That's kind of how I grew up too, going to different schools. And so I was repeating those patterns, but for the first time in probably 2 or 3 years now, we've been stable, and I have been providing the stability in my home and the security for them. And I've seen change in them having structure and patterns. And I was one to be like, let's go. I'm kind of done here. Like, let's head out. But understanding, and I was told that by aunties and in my travels, like, you need to slow down. Those girls need to have some stability. And I was like, nah, I could do it. You never even live this life I'm living when traveling all over. Like, I'd just kind of like be mouthy, or like have an attitude. But I'm, humbled now, and like understanding, like, when your aunties or someone older is telling you something, like, they're not just trying to be mean to you. Like, it's the truth. Like, they're speaking the truth to you, whether you want to believe it or not. Like, there was many times I wasn't believing it, and I'm always a person who did things my way. But, my advice to you would be, listen, like, for real, like, kind of take some of that stuff in, because it might hit you later on, and you might be like, hey, that is working. Should have just listened to them earlier. But again, you live your own life. You make your mistakes. That's kind of the way I learned, and the way I have learned with motherhood is I've made a lot of mistakes. I'm not a perfect mom. I'm imperfect. I'm still learning. I don't, there came a time where I made a vow to, like, not yell, because that's kind of how I was parented by my mom, was yelling, lots of yelling, and because she said, that's the only time you listen, when I'm yelling. And so I picked that up as a mom, and I would do that, and it wouldn't work. Neither would spanking. I tried that too. It didn't work. At one time, I remember my daughter, Sapphire, she wasn't listening. I don't know. She got spanked anyway. And we were driving, and she said, she was 4. She's like, you know what, Mom? I said, what, Sapphire? I was like, what, Sapphire? Because I was so upset with her. Just 4 years old. She might have even been 6. I don't remember, but 4 to 6 maybe. But she said, you don't have to spank me. You just have to tell me. You just have to tell me nicely, and I'll do it. And I was like, I just bust out crying. In my motherhood, I have cried a lot. Like, and a lot of the feedback was from my daughters. It's been like they correct me and tell me what's working for them and what isn't. And I value that. I value their voices. And I am continually teaching them that their voices are powerful. Even if I'm your mom, I don't want you to be afraid to tell me something. And they're like, well, we try, but then you get mad. And they're like, okay, well, that's something I have to work on, that I'm not open, I'm not welcoming. So I can honestly say, like, they have no filter with me. They're old enough now where they can communicate, where they can say, I don't yell at them now. Like, if I tell them something, I'm like, Lolly, that isn't okay. I don't like your attitude right now. That's not okay for me. Anyways, they still think I'm so mean when I'm mad. So I guess I don't have to yell. I don't have to cuss, but they still, like, my girls are like, when you're mad, you're scary. And I'm like a little bit shamed out. Like, am I? Like, I'm not trying to be. I was like, well, I don't yell. They're like, you don't have to. But anyways, again, my girls, they like the structure. They go to bed early, early between 10 and 11, and that works for them, and every morning, especially, I do want to talk about motherhood in this pandemic, because a lot of times I was traveling 3 times a month, 12, 3, 6, 9, about 10 days out of every month. I was apart from them because I was traveling probably to your community or your guys's, all of you that are tuned in. I probably been to your community and met all of you maybe. And if I didn't, we'll get the opportunity. But so when I was away, with my girl's dad living 7 hours away, he can't always come. He's the first person I ask when I go on trips, are you available? And if he's not available, I've grown, wherever I'm living, I've always had a village of people that I can count on, that come and they help me with the girls. They provide rides, they stay with them. It's important that you have those outlets. And that's what I've learned, especially having a career and being the sole provider for my daughters and for my home. You have to have support. You have to have positive, encouraging people, not only for your career and for you that support and believe in you as a mother, as a career woman, as, everything. You have those same people. They have to be in your corner to help you with your girls, your kids, your sons, your daughters, whatever it is. Build that village, build that inner circle. That's literally helped me be successful. I don't claim to do this on my own, or for me, I don't call myself a single mom. I have lots of help. And if you call yourself a single mom, there's nothing wrong with that. I take my hat off to you, because it isn't easy. It isn't, or a single father. I know there's men raising their kids too, and I love that. It's beautiful. I'm really proud of you, because it's hard work. Another thing, is raising kids in this time with this technology. I've tried to take their phones away. Okay, you're not gonna have your phone then. We're gonna learn how to visit. You guys have to learn how to visit here. Take their phone away, week or two. Holy man, they're really visiting. No, seriously though, when I take their phones away, they're different. And then they get back into it, and then, I'm like, fine, have your phone. And they have their phones, and then I fall off track. Okay, let's hand our phones in at 10 p.m. Everyone, plug your phone in downstairs, get to bed. Okay. That happens for a couple of weeks, and then I fall off, and then they have their phones all night. And, I'm really thankful though. My girls are really responsible in this time in their life. I don't have to help them with homework. Really proud of that, because that was a lot of years of doing that, and they're responsible enough to be communicating, emailing their teachers, and I appreciate that. I wasn't that responsible back in high school, so they're ahead of the game, y'all. They get themselves up. I'm gonna tell you guys the honest to God truth, man. They get me up. It pays off. No, seriously though, my daughter, they have their alarm set, and they get themselves up, and then one of them comes and Lolly comes and wakes me up every morning. I wake up, I fix her hair, I make them breakfast, I take them to school. That's my routine every day. And then after school, and I have that little window between dropping them off at school and picking them up. That's me time. That's whatever you need to get done for your career, whatever fun you want to have, whoever you want to visit. That's your window, girl. Utilize that. If you want to sleep, but you won't have any other time to do anything else. So it's up to you. That's your window. And then I pick them up from school, take them to their practices, the YMCA. Then, hopefully I'm like, you guys have to learn how to make supper, because I'm done with that. No, really though, I want them to learn how to be making supper and be able to all of us share that responsibility, because you guys know, if your parents, that's another thing, like figuring out what are we having for supper? And they're like, I don't know. And I'm the mom. I'm like, like, spaghetti, spaghetti again. I literally, if it was up to me, could eat chicken and rice every night. And they're like, nah, like not every night. Like that's how I am. Like I could have one thing that I love for a lot of days in a row until I'm sick of it. But yeah, so the beautiful thing about this pandemic is that, like I said, I'd be gone for 10 days out of the month, and now I do things virtually. And so I have been full force into mom mode, like driving them and, spending time with them and visiting them. And it's been beautiful. I'm really thankful for it. Jeez, I have to hold it. Don't worry, I got the first COVID shot. But anyways, I'm gonna probably end there. And any kind of questions you guys have, go ahead and ask. I'll take the time later to go through them and answer. Or if you don't feel comfortable commenting on this live, always feel free to email me or inbox me. I always appreciate that when we can be real and share stories, that maybe there's ways I can help, and any kind of advice I can give. I'm open to that. And so I do respond when people reach out to me and ask me questions, or they have to share something with me, or something resonated that I had shared with them. So really thankful for all of you taking the time tonight. I talked about motherhood. I talked about co-parenting. All right. I hope you guys have a good Wednesday night. Dogsha ake wachiang kapik day is how I say see you later in Lakota. Audio guides in Hirata. And see you guys next Wednesday.